Welcome to the August 7th, 1990 taping of It Happened in Grand Prairie, as we bring you the history of Grand Prairie of the past and bring you up to date from some of those that have caused that history to happen, and they're continuing to make history in our city. This is our history tape number 126, and we are very excited today. We have Eleanor and Frank Cohn, or should I say Frank and Eleanor Cohn, with us today, and we're delighted to welcome you to the set.
Thank you, Ruthie.
Hello, Frank.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ruthie.
Welcome, Eleanor. And we're just delighted to bring these very special people today. They are a long-time resident couple in our city, and they're going to establish their genealogy, tell us some good things about what brought them to Grand Prairie. But first, let's start with Frank. Frank, since you're in the center stage here, would you look out into your camera?
Okay.
Tell us about your parents and a little bit of the history of Frank Cohn from his mother and daddy's standpoint. Would you do that?
Okay, my grandfather was a blackland cotton farmer. He had a farm south of Greenville, 5 miles, what we call on the Terrell Pike.
All right.
That's what they call them in Terrell Pikes.
All right.
5 miles from town on a muddy road. I was born there in 1920.
All right.
And my grandfather was a one-man farm. He had a little over 100 acres that he farmed with 2 teams of mules.
Would you give his name?
And he is Frank Williams.
Right.
He was always fascinated me because he would never sell his cotton the day that they ginned it. He would always bring it back to the trompe lot, as we call it, till he could get him a better price. And invariably, he got a better price. And I shall never forget one day we came up from Houston. We moved there after I was born on that farm. And Papa was plowing what we'll call the South 40. And I decided to take him some water and surprise him because he didn't know we were coming. So when he gets to the end of the row, riding this cultivator with these 2 mules pulling, I jumped up and I said, "Oh, hello, Papa." Well, the mules jumped right straight up in the air and run across the next neighbor's farm, probably for 5 miles before they caught him. And he said, "Son, I'm glad to see you, but you know what's coming."
Your grandfather impressed you, didn't he?
And my grandmother was quite a character. She raised turkeys, and she had a butter and egg out in Greenville, Texas.
Give her name.
That was Tallulah Williams.
All right.
That was my dear grandmother. We called her Mama. And we would go to town with her, and they always liked Miss Williams' butter because she would stamp that W on it. I have churned a mighty pound of butter.
Oh.
Many pounds. I still have the crock that we churned it in, incidentally. And the old wash pot I still have that we made lye soap in.
All right.
So we had quite an experience with Mama and her turkeys. Of course, when it rained, we all had to go out and gather up the turkeys and put them in the barn because, you know, a turkey, will drown. And she had a big chicken ranch and a big orchard and, of course, a big garden that we enjoyed. And it was a big 2-story farmhouse and has since burned. In fact, we can't find the location anymore now. It's all developed into residential areas, even 5 miles from town. But we had quite a time. It was a good experience. I moved to Houston when I was a young man.
All right, but now let's get to your mother and father's name. We have your grandparents' name documented. Let's get your mother and father.
My dad was Robert Lee Cohn. He was born in Natchitoches, Mississippi. How they wound up there, I don't remember. His daddy died at my dad's young age. It was about 10. And he was the oldest of 5 children.
All right.
And, of course, they're all gone now. My daddy died in 62.
All right.
And my mother certainly is Myrtle Williams, and my grandparents that I'm familiar with in Greenville. But my dad's mother was a quarter Choctaw Indian. And she had long black hair, and she developed polio at an early age. And she brought up 5 children with polio. And then her husband died. Now, I never knew him, that grandfather, at an early age. And so Daddy became the man of the family at 10 years old.
Oh,
so
dear.
He had a 3rd grade education and
Got by.
got by. Yes, he did.
All right, give us your mother's full name then.
That's Myrtle Jewel Williams.
Myrtle Jewel Williams.
She was the daughter of Frank and Tallulah.
All right, now Robert and Myrtle had 2 wonderful boys, didn't you?
Well, thank you very much. I have a brother 15 years younger than myself.
All right.
Kind of came along late in life.
Let's name him.
That's Emmett.
All right.
And he's fleet manager for the a Ford dealer in Arlington, Teddy Arndale Ford.
All right.
Been in the Ford business for many years, as long as I have, really. And that's about it as far as that background.
Tell them how old your mother is.
All right.
Oh, and my mother will be 91 the 28th of this month.
And I want you to know I talk with her on the phone, and she's more alert than I am.
Well, Ruthie, she has extremely sharp computer mind.
Oh.
It's amazing. I'll say, Eleanor, what's this person's number? I called it maybe a month or two ago, and Nanny will say, oh, I remember that number. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it might be, and she can
Yes.
call them off just like that.
Oh, I think, and does she live with you?
Yes, she does, and she climbs those stairs every day and every night, and is just as wiry as can be. And she knows all of the grandchildren's, their friends' numbers. It's just amazing how this computer mind of hers works. Yeah, I have arthritis in my shoulder and back, and she don't have one bit of it.
That's
Except for
neat.
tremendous appetite. Yeah.
That's great. All right, now, Frank, we're going to let you rest a moment.
Okay.
We're going to Eleanor. Eleanor, let's
Okay.
establish your genealogy, shall we?
Okay. I was one of 8 children, and there's 3 in my family, 3 of my, 2 brothers and 1 sister that's deceased.
All right.
And most of my family live in Houston, and my mother and dad were reared in the Walker County. My dad was sawmill and farm, and also a school bus driver.
All right.
And his father, my grandfather, and my grandmother, who was Sarah Wilson, was related to Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson had written a letter to my father, and he said, "Dear Cousin Lee," and that letter is very important to us.
Oh, it is. Wonderful.
Grandma Wilson was a niece to Woodrow Wilson.
All right, now give us your dad's full name here.
My dad was Lee Archie Watson.
All right, and your mother's maiden name?
Molly Gertrude Davidson.
Okay. And when they married, where did they live?
They lived in New Waverly, Texas. That's the little small place near Huntsville.
Near Huntsville. You grew up in the near Huntsville area?
Yes, and went to school, went to high school, grammar school and high school in Huntsville. Now, you mentioned earlier, we did go to school when we were small in a little one-room schoolhouse with 1 teacher. And those were good days. We'd run home for lunch. But then when we got a little older, we had a school bus that took us to Huntsville. And in those days, goes way back, we would ride to town in a wagon. And that was a big day for us, for the little kids. Mother and Dad put us in the wagon. We'd all go to Huntsville, 7 miles. But we lived in the country and we loved it.
All right. Would you name your brothers and sisters, any of those that you'd like to name, especially the living ones, and where they live now?
Okay, Ernest, my 5 brothers were in business together in Houston.
All right.
They had the Watson Oil Company. We were real proud of those boys. They all worked together. And the older brother has died, and then the 3rd brother, he has died. But they kept this company for many years. The ones living are still active somewhat. They sold to the Standard of New Jersey. So they had some kind of arrangement where they could rebuild some of their business back after so many years. So they've done that. But the ones living is Ernest Watson and Joe Watson and Curtis Watson. And then I have a sister, Aline. I lost 1 sister, Selma. But we had a great large family and we loved it.
Oh, that is wonderful. All right, we're going to get back in a few minutes with you and let you tell about your family, your immediate family. But let's get back to Frank. Now, Frank, we talked about you when you grew up around the Greenville area. Tell us about Frank going to school when he was a little kid.
Okay, well, because we moved to Houston at a young age, and I went to elementary school, a school named Milam, incidentally, and then junior high school in Houston, and went to Milby High School, graduated in 1937. I played football and, believe it or not, ice hockey. We had an ice hockey league in Houston.
Back in the 38,
in
37,
the 30s.
yes.
It disbanded in 39, 2 years after I graduated, but incidentally, our team won city championship in 37.
Oh, that's
And we had the distinction, our football team, of not winning a game in 37.
But the ice hockey, you did real good on
The
that.
ice hockey, we did okay. And then, of course, Ellen and I started courting, and I married her.
Where did you meet Eleanor?
Across the street.
Well, we lived across the street, and I just couldn't get away from her.
I see. She had you cornered.
She had me cornered, Ruthie. I couldn't escape her.
Okay.
No, we had a great time. At first, I didn't like her very much,
I
and I don't
see.
think she liked me. But I guess
50
that our
years.
friendship developed into a pretty good bond.
All right,
We'll
let's
be married 50 years next year. Next year.
50 years, that golden wedding anniversary coming up.
This September will be 49.
Okay, that is great. Eleanor, we'd like for you to tell us about maybe meeting Frank and your courtship and when you got married and where you all lived and what he was doing for a living. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. It was fun. We lived across the street from each other.
All right.
And he had his girlfriends and I had my boyfriends, but we kept an eye on each other a little bit. So he would pick me up from school and we started dating. And we married in September 41. And Frank then was working for McAvoy, a machine shop, McAvoy Company. Remember, we didn't even have a car.
That's right. I walked the wood.
I was
With the cyclone.
when Frank went to my dad and mentioned that we wanted to get married, he said, "Well, son," he said, "I sure had a great ambition for Eleanor to go to college." I said, "Oh, Papa, I don't want to go to college. I want to get married."
Right, right.
So we did. We got married in 1941.
All right, and did you live in the Houston area then, Frank?
Yes, we lived in an apartment, and she managed the apartment.
For the rent.
And in fact, we had to borrow the money for the ring and the suit I got married in.
That's great. That was a good investment. Wasn't that a good investment? All right, how long did you stay in the Houston area and whatever made you migrate toward the Grand Prairie area?
When I come out of the service in February '46, we opened up a hardware and sporting goods store in the north end of Houston. And in 1948, they built a Western Auto pretty close to me, and I thought that they were going to take all of the business, so I sold out. Well, in 1948, Eleanor's brother, Ernest, who's still living now and still in the business, was racing midgets in Houston on a circuit, the Houston, Beaumont, San Antonio, Dallas circuit. And I liked that. So with that connection, I met a man that was office manager for Ford Motor Company. Well, in 1948, he said, well, you have experience with parts and so forth, hardware and parts and that sort of thing. We're expanding our sales force in the Houston Ford Motor Company office. Come join us. And I thought, well, okay. So I took it kind of as a temporary job, and I stayed with them 18 years.
Oh, great.
So in 1955, they transferred me to Dallas.
All right.
And then, of course, I stayed here 5 years, the last 5 years in marketing. I was here full 10 years in Dallas. And then in 1965, I bought E.H. Dutch Stoves out in 1965.
And that was the Ford agency here in Grand
Ford
Prairie?
dealer on Main Street. And then in 1973, I built a new store on 303.
All right.
And I'll never forget a lot of my friends that right now I said, well, are you sure we're on the right track? Because I kept saying it'd be downtown Grand Prairie. And I was out there all by myself for a while. Just Gibson's and I were about the only two on that street. So that's how I came here.
All right. We missed one little link in there
Okay.
that I picked up. You said when you got out of the service, we'd like to mention your tenure in the military. Would you do
I was in the Air
that?
Force. I volunteered in 1942 in May and became a bombardier navigator. And we had an instructor squadron. We were going to Japan and win the war all by ourselves.
Oh, you bet.
And we had new airplanes in 45, time we got our wings and everything. And by the time we were going to Tinian, they declared the E Day and then, of course, DJ Day.
Yes,
So, anyhow, we were on sub patrol in South Atlantic for a while when the German subs were pretty active out there. And
a very exciting military career.
very exciting, yes.
But glad to get out.
I'm glad to get out. Eleanor came with me a few times and spent a week or so or two in a few places.
All right. While he was in the military, Eleanor, what did Eleanor do? Did you work out of the home or what?
For a while, I worked with my brothers in the oil business.
All right.
And then I joined him and would stay he was transferred off, and we were in Georgia and West Overfield, Massachusetts, Deming, New Mexico, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Washington, just name it. I'd stay with him as much as I could, and then when they'd make a move, I'd come back on work. And then when we got out of service and settled down, I went to work for Exxon, Humble Oil then.
All right.
and stayed there until Cindy, our daughter, came along.
All right, now we're into the family, and Cindy came along. Where was Cindy born?
She was born in Fort Worth.
In Fort Worth, Texas.
She was a beautiful Edna Gladney baby, and we adopted Cindy and brought her home when she was 5 days
And
old.
she's special because you chose
She
her.
is very special,
That's right.
and she's proud of being chosen.
Yes, you bet. All right, now, while we're on to Cindy, let's tell about her little family and that she lives here in Grand Prairie. Let's bring us up to date about Cindy.
Well, we have 2 grandchildren, Steve and Holly. Steve is 14. Holly is 10, will be 11 in December. They go to school in Arlington. Holly goes to Ellis, and Steve goes to Nichols. And they're really a joy. Tommy Ellison used to say every time he'd see Frank come in the bank, he saw 2 little heads right beside of him, Steve and Holly. But they've been a big joy in our life.
Now, Mr. Cohn, since you've been a transition from the Ford Motor Company to Ford Parts to owning a dealership and finally selling out to that, what are you doing with yourself these days?
Oh, I have been retired 11 years, Ruthie, and it's been a joyous 11 years. I have really enjoyed it. I have never been bored one day. I have lots to do. And of course, I help Ellen and Cindy in the real estate business.
All right.
Do the honeydew jobs for them.
Yes, I understand.
You know, run to Fort Worth, Pawpaw, go to Dallas, Pawpaw.
But you do have one day a week you get to go to Rotary on Friday,
I go
don't
to
you?
Rotary on Friday, that's right, and I enjoy that very much. I enjoy the fellowship. And I do stay busy. We have some activities that keep us busy, and of course, we're devout Methodists. And,
Yes. Tell me about your work in the Methodist Church. That's very important to you
I
and
guess
to
I've
us.
had about every job in the Methodist Church, from chairman of the board on down, you know.
Yes.
And of course, I still teach Sunday school, have for 40 years.
What kind of class are you teaching now?
We have an adult class, and it's about 65 members, and they know that Bible frontwards and backwards. And
Does that keep you on your Bible
it keeps
toes?
keeps me on my Bible toes, yes.
You bet it
I know
does.
friends of mine used to kid me and say, "You mean you're a Ford dealer and you teach Sunday school?" I said, "Yeah, that's right." So anyhow, we've both been active, and we're early churchgoers, and we like early church.
All right, now, before I get away from you and get to Eleanor's career, I'd like to know about your city service. You've been very important in the city, very important to the all of that. I'd like to name everything you've ever done for the city,
Oh, well, thank you,
especially
Lizzie.
your elected office and all the way down
Thank
the pike.
you. Well, I was president of the chamber in 1969,
Okay?
and that was one of the years when we were trying to get tablecloth restaurants in town.
Yeah,
We weren't successful in doing
yeah.
it. And of course, I was elected to the council in 71, and then in 73, I started my new store on 303. And I didn't think that I would have enough time for the council, so I chose not to run in 73.
Yeah.
And I think Bo Craft took my seat that year in 73. Isn't that
Yes.
right?
And you've served on other things. You've served on bond
yes.
committees and
Yes, many
Housing
times. And of
finance.
course, right now I'm president of the Housing Finance Corporation in
All
Grand
right,
Prairie.
all right.
And I thoroughly enjoy that. I just look every day for something that will help us give affordable housing to the citizens. I'm real concerned about the elderly people. I'd like to have
Yes.
something better for them.
that's us.
That's us. That's
That's
right.
us. All right, all right. Now, Eleanor, during all of this time, after you got Cindy and up into school and joined the PTA and did all of this other good stuff, then now you have another career or so. Let's find out about your career.
Well, when I first came to Grand Prairie, I was active in the chamber, and I also was active with the Women's Club, and I was chamber treasurer. And I enjoyed that until I really started work. And I went into real estate in 1978
All
with
right.
Pat Watson.
All right.
And until 1985, I stayed with Pat, and then Cindy, our daughter, decided we'd open a Century 21 real estate office. So that's where we are now. She is my partner, and we have about 18 agents. And we have a real good office that we're proud of in Grand Prairie.
What is it like for a mature, very exciting lady to be wearing the hat of the family, and you let this rascal be retired and do all of those
Well,
kind of jobs. How do you relate to that?
I have a saying, I can spend money faster than she can make it.
That's it.
See?
And for her to just get out there and train.
That's right.
That's
No, there's not a day that Frank doesn't help us.
Yes.
We could not do without him. Cindy has said many times, she says, "Where's Daddy? We need him." But he does a lot of things to help us. He stays busy. We got him a beeper so we could stay in touch.
Now he's wearing a beeper.
We don't want to lose touch with him.
That is great. Frank, I'd like for you to look out into your camera, and I'd like for you to just charge the citizens of Grand Prairie tell them how you really love being in Grand Prairie. It's a great place to be, and they need to become a part of it. And give us a good selling job.
Well, let me tell you a little story first.
All right.
When we moved here in '65, we had 2 homes financed with Prudential Insurance Company,
All right.
Houston and one in Dallas. So we immediately bought a home out in North End, where we live right now, on Wiltshire. And we go to Prudential, and they said, well, we're sorry, Mr. Cohn, we can't finance your home in Grand Prairie. It's too transient town. It's just too many blue-collar people, and they don't stay hitched. Well, that really made me upset. I said, here I'm invested my time and money to buy this Ford store from Mr. Stokes. And I'm the Ford dealer, and they don't think enough of me or this city to finance my home. Well, let me tell you something. This has turned out to be the greatest experience that we've had in our lives, I guess. This town was about 35,000. We moved here in '65, and now look at us. We're bumping 120,000.
Right.
We have everything in the world going for us. We have access. We have east-west access. We have the wonderful Jopu Lake. We've got so many new businesses in town that is generating revenue for us, and I just can't say enough about the city of Grand Prairie, Texas. I've taken a lot of kidding around the country about the name Grand Prairie. It's kind of like Farmer's Branch. How did it become a name like that?
Yes.
I said, well, it's a long story. It used to be Deckman back there. Now, you
That's
like
right.
Deckman or Grand Prairie? And I said, well, I like Grand Prairie.
Yes.
So I would urge everybody to certainly get involved, and the way to get involved is to learn something about the political process in our city and what we have going for us, and certainly to exercise your God-given right to vote. And I would encourage everybody to do that. But we can't sit back and let Joe do it anymore. We have to be involved. And I've enjoyed the 25 years I've been here immensely.
And you have given a tremendous amount of service, and we're going to get back to that before we leave. Now, Eleanor, front and center, and look out. And I'd like for you to speak to the young ladies, maybe, that are in our video land, and tell them how important they can become to the community of Grand Prairie in leadership, in business. You've hit all of those avenues of experience, and that's wonderful. And if you'd just encourage them, would you do that for us?
I feel there's many, many and much opportunities for the younger people growing up in Grand Prairie. We have such a wonderful city, and we have such a growth area. There's so many things that are going to be available for young people. And I can't say enough. Frank and I had a choice of, when we sold the dealership, to move back to Houston. We have a place in Huntsville. We have a little farm that we go up to visit quite often, and we thought about building, and Frank says, no, let's stay in Grand Prairie. So we love it, and we would not be back in business if we didn't. And I can see so much potential. We're so proud of Jopu Lake. And being in real estate, I see so much growth area, south part of town, moving out toward the lake. It's really thrilling to see what's happening in Grand Prairie.
That is just a wonderful testimony. Now, Mr. Cohn, if you had it all to do over, all the way from Greenville down to the Houston area, through the Ford business
One thing, Ruthie.
and the military, you wouldn't do anything any
I wouldn't
differently.
change one thing.
What do you think has been the greatest turning point in the city of Grand Prairie since you've been here? And would you give credit to the 1 or 2 or 3 people in Grand Prairie that made some opportunities available to you, or that in concert with you helped things to happen and help you to grow from a a young man into a Ford dealership owner and then an entrepreneur?
Well, that's a tough question, Ruthie. I've had so many friends and still have an awful lot of friends in this city, and every day I run into people that say, well, I bought a car from you in '75 and it's still running, and that just thrills me to no end.
Oh, you bet.
But there's been a great number of people. Of course, the old regime is gone, the Kurt Wagners, the big developers. The north end of town is just about built to its capacity. About the only thing we have left is south end, but the one good thing about this city is that we have so much open space to develop. We're the only one in Dallas County that has a place to go. And I just can't wait to see what Joe Poole does for the rest of us. And there's been so many people in town that have helped me and been friends to us that it would just be hard to name any one or two people. It's just impossible to, but they've all been great to us. I appreciate their help in the past.
Sitting as the president of the Housing Authority, tell us what it is like to be in a position such as that and the people that you serve with and what you all do. Many of the people in our viewing audience may not even know that that is a very important facility.
That is very true. We're a corporation appointed by the City Council. We're a freestanding corporation, make our own decisions. The Housing Finance Corporation of Grand Prairie, Texas issues tax-free bonds for affordable housing for the citizens of this city. We have just recently did a $15 million bond issue in last April for first-time home buyers. That issue, it will be sold out by the end of September. And that's been a great asset to us. We have our name in the pot for more money for 1991. And with that money, we would like to try to do something for the elderly citizens. We've had many elderly folks, and we've had some studies done, as you might have seen, the market study we had concerning the availability and what's the feasibility of putting in something. I had many elderly people say, well, we need something where we can live together, but we can't do yard work and we can't cook for ourselves. So what I envision is something maybe not like the old Lennox Hotel, but something that's a freestanding nature that could help with affordable living for these elderly citizens.
I've noticed something we've overlooked, Frank.
What?
I see something on your lapel here that we haven't even mentioned that you're into, that I know that you wouldn't want to pass up that opportunity.
Well, thank you. It's been a joy to me to be a Shriner and a Mason. Eleanor's daddy conferred the degree on his son-in-laws and all of his sons. I saw that, and I became a Mason in 1946 and joined the Shrine in Houston in 1947. And I'm still active in the Masons.
Wonderful.
And in the Shrine. I'm past president of the Grand Prairie Shrine Club, pardon me. And we have a monthly meeting there at the Veterans Memorial Center.
Wonderful.
And thoroughly enjoyed that.
Well, I didn't want to miss that opportunity.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Would you believe we're out of time? It has been such a delight having you all with us today. I want to thank you all for all the contributions you've made to our city.
Well, thank you, Ruthie. We've enjoyed.
We appreciate it, and we're honored by your invitation.
Yes, we appreciate your asking us.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
And this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you that history is as we live and do.